Well, good morning. Welcome to Stonemont Church, and because I'm going to put this on American Reversion too, welcome to American Reversion. The reason that I'm putting this on American Reversion is because when we talk about America needing a reversion, a return to the way that it was meant to be, a life and a country built on the foundational principles given to us by God. Um, these are the important things. Most of you know that right now a case is before the Supreme Court out of Mississippi, which is reviewing abortion. There is a chance, apparently, from what we're hearing, questions, you never know with the Supreme Court, but by the questions that some of the justices have asked, it seems that there is a good chance that Roe will be overturned. We don't know that. We hope that. And so it's a time for us to give it some thought and some prayers. You know, when we talk about taking America back to where it was, for those of you who are as old as I, and some of you may be older, for those of you who are younger, this may be a surprise. But before the 1970s, the idea of abortion was absolute anathema in the United States. It was certainly not accepted. What brought it around, and I won't get into this in detail, what brought it around was the women's liberation movement, the sexual revolution. People wanted to be able to be sexually active without consequences, misusing sexuality for pleasure only, as opposed to God's intent of bringing man and woman together as one for procreation and the establishment of families under His guidance. What's happened to our country since then has been beyond description. If we're able, if they who are taking the fight to them are able to get Roe versus Wade overturned, this is going to be a major step in an American reversion. And so we want to pay attention to that. We want to be a part of that. One of the things that's being argued is viability. They are wanting to that this case itself. I don't want to misstate this, so I won't get into it in too much detail. I don't claim to know the particulars of the case, but from what I've read on the surface, they're wanting to prohibit abortions after about 15 weeks. Okay, and this is the argument about when life starts. Well, I want to address that for just a minute and talk about when life starts. The argument among people is a matter of opinion, and you can bring in, science, and you can bring in the doctors and say, well, when do they feel pain? A greater question is, well, I won't muddy the waters with a greater question. I'm going to go directly to what God tells us. Okay, when does life start? And I'll tell you what I get from this. If we look at Psalm 139, verse 13, and I'll use the New Living Translation here because I like the way that it puts things. It's easily understood. It's not as beautiful as the King James, but the King James has problems in it. And I know that I had a conversation with a young man the other day who was, we were talking about his turning back to God, and he said that he had been told that the King James was the only Bible to follow. No. I'll get into that another time. Anyway, from the New Living Translation, it says, "You made all of the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb." Okay, that is God. That's what we know is happening. We did not come from cosmic sludge and monocellular organisms that somehow over millions of years evolved into the self-aware, creative, spiritual creatures that we are now. We were created as spiritual creatures, furnished with physical bodies with which to interface with the world around us by God. Let no one, be misinformed about that. And I'll go one more here, and I'll go to Jeremiah 1:5, and to where God told Jeremiah, "Before I formed thee in the belly." This is King James because I like the way that it puts it. "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee." You can't get more clear than that. It goes on to say, "And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctify thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations." But that first part tells us what God is telling us about when life starts. And that is, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Before he formed it. This answers the question, when does life start? Where does life start? We don't know when, because we don't know the mind of God, but we know that life starts not at conception, not at viability, but in the mind of God. And to destroy that, to kill innocent life that God has created, is evil, it's a sin, and it's demonic. I'll be very clear about that. So I ask all of you to keep this case in your thoughts and your prayers. Pray for this case. Pray for those representing the proper side of this case. Pray for the justices, that they may see the wisdom and be guided by God towards a proper decision. Pray for all of those who are affected by this, including all of those who have been misled to think that abortions were acceptable. They also are victims, and they deserve our prayers and our support. And I ask that you share this. Share this with everyone that you can think of. The more people that are praying, the more God hears our prayers. We need to return to Him and let Him set the road and our path before us. So I thank you for this. Keep this case in your minds. Think about it. Talk to your friends. Pray about it. Encourage them to pray about it. And we will see what God has in store with us for this. So I say goodbye to you. I thank you for thinking and praying on this, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.